Hi, everyone. Sean O'Connor from Macabre Daily, and I am thrilled to announce and to introduce one of my new favorite authors, and that's Mr. Josh Rountree. Josh, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You and I have been communicating back and forth for a couple of weeks now, maybe even a couple of months, trying to get this off the ground, and we're finally here. And I have to say, I don't know where to start because I have so many questions for you, but I guess the fairest thing to do is to let our viewers and our readers know a little bit about you. So, Josh, where are you from? How did you get into writing? And, what gave you the bug for horror?
Yeah, gosh, I think like a lot of people who do horror, I've loved this stuff since I was really, really little. I was reading Stephen King stuff in elementary school. I was writing horror stories about, the kids in my class starring in slasher films. So, it's been something that's been there since a very early age for me, and I really always wanted to be a writer. And so I was born in Austin, but I grew up in West Texas. So I'm like a sixth or seventh generation Texan. So a lot of that kind of creeps into to the things I write.
Boy,
Uh,
does it.
yeah, yeah. I can't really help it. It's always going to be there. But yeah, I started. I've been writing my whole life, but I started really submitting for publication about 20 years ago.
Okay.
I really did over the years a ton of short stories. That's always been one of my favorite things to write, short stories. And I've done everything from horror, fantasy, sci-fi, western, alternate history. I mean, you name it. As long as it's some sort of cool, fun genre that I like, I've probably played in it a little bit. And then, after all these stories, I eventually kind of worked my way and decided that I wanted to do something a little bit longer. So, enter the Legend of Charlie Fish, and that's my first novel.
It is an amazing. First off, first novel. You, you got to be kidding me because I picked this up. I picked up The Legend of Charlie Fish. Quick story, and the viewers will know I never tell a quick story, so but buckle up. I'm in New York City at the Mysterious Bookshop, and I'm poking around, and I'm looking for something that catches my eye, and I'm walking out, and the shop owner, they're unpacking stuff, and they're laying it out on the cash wrap, and I just happened to catch the cover. And literally, Josh, literally out of the corner of my eye, and I just saw the silhouette, and I'm like, "Is that a Gill man?" Next thing I know, I've got this book in my hand. I tore through it. Now, this is years ago. I tore through it in about 36 hours, cover to cover. It's done. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me that this is a first time author. You blew the doors off of it. I've got to ask you, what did you read growing up? Because there's so many, and please take this as a compliment, Josh. There's so many echoes of like, you know, Elmore Leonard, Ombre and 40 Lashes Less One, and Charles Portis, and Larry McMurtry. I mean, you are right there.
You're singing all the hits for me, man. It's first off, yes, it's a first novel. It's definitely not the first novel I've written. There are
That's fair.
six or seven that will never see the light of day. So I feel like I had to work through that and get all that stuff out of the way. But to your point, I love Westerns as much as I love horror, and grew up reading horror. It's the same thing with Westerns. When I was a very little kid, my granddaddy always had Western paperbacks, and I just tore through them. By the time I was in middle school, I had read everything that Louis L'Amour
Louis
had read
L'Amour.
for that period. 100%. So and of course I've never stopped. If I'm picking up something to read today, it's probably going to be a Western. That's my favorite thing to read. But Larry McMurtry is by far my favorite writer. Lonesome Dove's my favorite book. That's going to be in there. And you mentioned Charles Portis, and that was absolutely a big influence on this book. I was doing my best to get that true grit feel without, entirely robbing true grit. But when you have a protagonist who is sort of a precocious, 12-year-old girl in the Old West, it's really easy to kind of fall into that. And I absolutely love his writing, and I love the way that the voice kind of works in that book. And I was definitely shooting for something kind of similar when I was working on Charlie Fish.
It just sang to me because I'm the same. And look at this. I mean, you have it's baked into you coming from Texas. I'm a New York guy, but I just gravitated toward that growing up. I came across True Grit at a young age, and Elmore Leonard,
Mhm.
and the
And I
Western.
love his stuff too. Yeah.
And it's just, it just opened doors for me. But as I'm reading Charlie Fish, it's just, I mean, it just echoed and echoed and echoed in your voice. Though I don't want anyone to think that it's mimicry. You completely make it your own. You have this uncanny ability to create worlds like those authors do that are completely your own. They have their own personalities, they have their own quirks, and rhythms to them. And
Mhm.
I was just swept away. I do want to. I know we're supposed to be talking about the Unkillable Frank Lightning. We'll get to it, I promise.
We'll get to them both. Let's talk about them both.
I was so fascinated by your knowledge of, and forgive me because a lot of it is assumptive on my part because I don't know a hell of a lot about it, but the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900. Not to give any spoilers away because I want everyone to enjoy the book fully without having anything spoiled, but it does factor into the novella, and it's essentially its own character. How
Yeah.
much research did you have to do?
I mean, I definitely did a lot to kind of bone up on it, but it's something that I've known about for a long time and read about for a long time. I kind of found when I started doing kind of some tour stops for uh, Charlie Fish that a lot of people in Texas knew about that, and a lot of people outside of Texas didn't know about that.
Okay.
And so I think it's just something that we've very much just sort of ingested over the years, kind of growing up here. It's just kind of one of the tall tales and part of the culture and all that. But I have read a lot of books on it, and I've read a couple pieces of fiction at least that have taken place there. I always tell people if you kind of want to get a little bit of a kind of a quick, or not a quick, but just a really good overview of it. There's a book called Isaac Storm that
Yeah.
really just gosh, it goes into fine detail on the whole thing to the point where it's a really really harrowing book. And when it's something that's that kind of strong and affecting, I really was my intention to kind of make the storm a bit of a character.
Yes.
And so in the really you have some protagonists, you have some antagonists in the book, but in the end, the storm is kind of the thing that comes for them all.
It's like the shark in Jaws. I mean, it's there
Yeah.
at the periphery until it's right on you. And right, it's just so impactful and so thrilling. And also, we at this point we've fallen in love with the characters. Most of them. There's some scoundrels in there too, which are typically my favorite characters. You
Yeah.
you really have a deft ear for dialogue and uncanny ability to create character, good and bad. Really enjoyed your sinister characters.
Well, in the dialogue, it's funny sometimes you don't know about your own writing until you start hearing people talk about it and you start talking to people about it. And I realized along the way that I think I owe all of my dialogue to the Coen brothers. I'm a huge fan of Raising Arizona, and I just now, I eventually recently realized that I'm always sort of thinking Raising Arizona when I'm writing certain types of characters, and so that was certainly me channeling those guys for that.
Well, Seth and Aubrey in the Unkillable Frank Lightning have stepped off the screen from a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, no, I love their stuff, and it's just like with literary influences, you're going to bring that type of thing to the fore as well, and you're just really trying to find your own voice. And I appreciate you saying that it reads like it's my voice. I hope that it does. That's definitely what we're always going for, because we all come from somewhere, and when I first started writing, and I think a lot of writers do this, you'll try and ape some of your favorite writers and do their style. One of my favorite writers ever is Joe Lansdale. And so certainly when I came out of the shoot originally, I was really trying to be Joe Lansdale. And I realized along the way that, that he has his own voice no matter what he's writing. He'll hop through a bunch of genres, but you can always kind of tell that it's him writing it.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, but that's not my voice. And so somewhere along the way, I kind of tried to pull back and figure out how I would say some of those things.
You no, you have a very distinct voice. And to your point, you pick up bits and pieces along the way of the authors that you love, the writing style that you love, but you do make it completely your own. And look, that's I'll die on that hill because I'm two novels in now, and after finishing the Unkillable Frank Lightning, you have a very strong, distinctive voice. You have the ability, like those other authors, but in your own way. You can crush me with a sentence. Josh, you really can.
Thank you. That's a wonderful thing to hear.
It's
That's so awesome.
Yeah, there and it's in Charlie Fish as well. I mean, there were some scenes there, and they just come up on you quick, and they're just so devastating, but so well written. And yeah, I just look. This is for you, my friend, because both of these novels really blew me away. I'm gonna do every damn thing I can to make sure that as many eyes get on these as possible because it's I'm in my mid 50s now, and I just find it thrilling. I feel like a kid again when I find an author that I just absolutely adore their work. You just want to run it. It's like Scrooge. You want to open the window and say, "What day is it? Everyone's got to read Josh Rountree."
That's so amazing. Thank you so much. I'm in my mid 50s too, and I'm still looking for people who will shout about my work. So we're on the same team.
Found one. I'm only 5'7" on my best day, but I'm loud enough. I'll get the word out there.
That's so awesome. Thank you.
All right, we've got to talk about if it's okay with you. Got to talk about the monster aspect because this is Macabre Daily.
Yeah.
You can see we have a
I
friend.
noticed your creature and your bride there. So
Yep.
yes, you are well prepared. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder that I've got a little cowboy versions of Frankenstein and
I
the
love
creature
'em.
back there. So
What was it that resonated, and where was that epiphany of, all right, you know what? I'm going to take some chocolate and some peanut butter. I'm going to take some horror and some Western, and we're going to make something delicious. How did that come about?
I mean, I always cross genres. So it's very rare that I sit down and go, okay, today I'm going to write a science fiction story or today I'm going to write a horror story. I just like mixing and matching them and then sort of figuring out where they're going to go. But I told you I have primarily been a short story writer. And so I had set out some years back to, I decided I was going to write monster stories set in Old Texas. And so I basically defined that in my brain as like 1830 to 1930 and see what I could do to play with some traditional monsters. And so I wrote some short stories that I really dug. I did one with the werewolf and one with the witch, but I just tried to put some, set them in that period and kind of give them something that was authentically Texas about it. And at some point, I'm a huge fan of monster movies and Universal monsters and that type of thing. So at some point, I was sort of searching my mind thinking, okay, well, what would be fun to play with? And I thought of Creature from the Black Lagoon. And, as soon as I did, it didn't take me long to connect the dots and go, okay, so what if he was in the hurricane and it just kind of rolled from there. And so I really just set out thinking, okay, this is going to be another one of these short stories. And it kind of grew and it grew into a novella. And then I subbed it to the eventual publisher Tachyon, and they liked it, but they wanted to grow it and grow it a little bit more. And it eventually became, the novel. It's a short novel, but it is a novel. So
It is a novel. Yeah, forgive me. I did call it a novella. It is a novel.
yeah, it depends on who you ask. I mean, by technical definition, it's a novel, but it is fairly short. Frank Lightning's a little bit longer, though, for sure.
Longer and so damn good. By the way, I love the fact that you're partnered up with Tachyon. They smash it. And
They're amazing, right?
home with Joe Lansdale. I mean, Casey was the one who put us together. So
Yeah,
Casey, if you're watching, thank you so much. Yeah,
Casey is
I'm in
amazing.
debt. Yeah.
Yeah, everything with Tachyon has been just killer. There's I have nothing that I can complain about. They've been wonderful from editing to promotion to just everything. I mean, Tachyon's the best.
Yeah, they just seem like some a class act. So, oh yeah, we now let's talk about the Unkillable Frank Lightning. So we've got Charlie Fish, which is essentially, we have a band of heroes and villains come across essentially the Gillman from the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
And again, I want to leave everything ambiguous, Josh. I want people to pick up this book. I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say that the story is thrilling, heartbreaking, funny as hell. Oh, by the way, you have a killer sense of humor.
Yeah, that's I was glad to hear people say that because you never know if stuff's going to land, because it's not like, I'm not, there's nothing that's like riotous laughter, but I definitely just want people jabbing at each other, like characters sort of joking back and forth. And, that comes from Coen Brothers, and that comes from Hap and Leonard, and that comes from a whole lot of things. So,
How much of you is in Floyd?
maybe a little bit. I mean, I would describe Floyd as kind of taciturn, and that's kind of me too for the most part. I'm maybe a little bit more of an active participant in the world than Floyd, but he's a cool character. And what's kind of neat, you talk about Tachyon, the first version of this that I wrote, Floyd was the only point of view character.
Oh,
And
oh,
for
now
those who haven't read it, yeah, this book is two main point of view characters alternating in first person, and it's Floyd and it's Nellie, who's this 12-year-old girl in the book. And part of when I started working with Rick Claw, my editor at Tachyon, and with Jacob and other folks at Tachyon, helped me kind of draw it out and expand the idea. And part of that was bringing Nellie into her own point of view character. And I think when you read the book, it's not remotely the same book without it. My favorite parts of the book are all her parts and all her, her point of view, and just some of the talents that she have really helps us get kind of, I think, into the heads of a lot of the other characters and see what's going on. But you know, Floyd and Nellie alternating, I like to see just kind of how they differ from one another.
They're such distinct personalities and they both have their own rhythms. And forgive me because it's such a cliche, but I don't know how else to say it. Nellie leaps off the page. I mean, she leaps off the page and grabs you by the lapels and shakes you. I mean, it's such a strong character, so well written and so lovable.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she's a tough young bird. And
Yeah, she's gone through a lot, and definitely, you know, if for those who've read True Grit, there's certainly a lot of similarities to Maddie Ross from that book, and it's hard again not to with I love that book so much, kind of coming to this character, but I think she's definitely her own person here.
yeah. All right, we have to talk about the Unkillable Frank Lightning. So you write The Legend of Charlie Fish. You get some, and by the way, I've seen the reviews, so this isn't me just pulling it out of thin air. The reviews were fantastic, and I mean from incredible legends in the genre were
Mhm.
praising this book up and down, and it became somewhat of a pass along, meaning that I read this and I passed it along to a friend. You got to read this.
Yeah.
Put down what you're reading. You got to read this. And they pass along until it circled back. I always make sure it circles back to me, by the way. But, that struck lightning. And now it's a couple of years between. So take us through the process of how the Unkillable Frank Lightning came to be. How did you Frankenstein that together? Haha, see what I did there.
Well, yeah, it's sort of the next progression in that monster thing that I wanted to do. Uh, I had the creature book, and I think if, as far as the Universal monster movies go, I think Creature and Bride of Frankenstein are probably my favorites. Frankenstein's right up there with Bride of Frankenstein. It's hard to rank them, but so I definitely wanted to do that, and so yeah, I just really kind of set out thinking how I could do a Frankenstein story without it actually being Frankenstein, really set in the Old West. And I also, I don't want to spoil a lot with the Legend of Charlie Fish, but there are some characters with their fates left unanswered in the Legend of Charlie Fish, and I had a lot of people asking me about a particular character, and when I started thinking how I could sort of bring him back into the narrative, he dovetailed really easily with what I was trying to get across with the Unkillable Frank Lightning, and there's a whole lot. In that book about kind of the nature of death and grief and how we, um, you know, what it means to be dead and what it might mean if we could come back from the dead. And so this one particular character just fit in there like a hand in a glove.
When this particular character, and again, no spoilers, made their appearance, I can't believe you didn't hear me in Texas.
I've had several people get, friends who read it early sent me a text and they're like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah. You son of a bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that was like when I did that, I realized that when I realized that I wanted to bring him into it, it really started flowing. I had a little bit of a problem kind of getting off the starting line because I felt like I wanted to kind of make it narratively the same as Charlie Fish, where it's kind of alternating these point of views. But I started realizing that the only sections I really liked that I were writing were from Catherine's point of view, who's the main protagonist of The Unkillable Frank Lightning. And when I realized that I just needed to tell everything through her lens, the thing really took off after that. And um, she's a really different character for me because she's not very likable. She's not, you certainly sympathize for her, but there are things where you don't sympathize, for her. And but she still is out there trying to make things better if she can.
It's like my favorite kind of character, complex and complicated. Yeah, I mean, how do we put it? She makes decisions like all of us, that we think are the right thing to do at the time, and nine times out of the ten they end up.
Most of them she makes her wrong.
Yeah,
and then she has to face down the consequences for that.
yeah. I mean, honestly, there's like nothing more human, but the journey, oh, it's just so good. And again, it's so hard, Josh. It's so hard not to spoil anything because I get so excited about these books and I just want to tell everybody, but that would, it's a gift waiting for them. So,
Okay.
we kind of have this through line. We have some continuity with character. We're building this world out. We have continuity with the monster aspect
Mhm.
specifically. I mean, we can't we can't really call Frankenstein, specifically a universal monster because it is Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
But and you don't have to answer if you don't want. But could there possibly be more in the future?
Yeah, no,
Along
for
that same
sure.
vein?
That's my hope at least. So and I definitely leaned into the universal version of Frankenstein in some cases. Like there's some hopefully not too heavy-handed like, call outs to that, but in general, I was certainly going for a lot of the themes and that type of thing from Mary Shelley. But yeah, it's my as long as I can produce an idea I think is worthwhile, I would love to do several more, monster books. And I have a couple in mind that would kind of fall into this world. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to approach them, just like I would with anything. And my goal is to not so much do like a series of books, but just a bunch of standalone books that you don't necessarily have to read the rest. So with Frank Lightning, for example, I've had a lot of people read it who haven't read Charlie Fish, and I wrote
Yeah,
it
you don't have
intentionally
to.
so you didn't have to. Yeah, exactly. If you have read Charlie Fish, you're going to get a little bit more out of it, I think. But my goal would be, hey, you can read these in any order, however you want to do that. And so I want to be able to kind of keep that going with it. But yeah, I certainly have like seeded the books with certain like smaller characters here and there, and I think, okay, that person could be doing this and this other one, and if so I'm always kind of looking for those little pieces of connective tissue.
Thrilled. I'm thrilled. You're creating this incredible universe, but to your point, you can step in at any point. You
Yeah.
know, if you didn't read Charlie Fish, you can absolutely pick up the Unkillable Frank Lightning and enjoy it from cover to cover. To your point, you'll get a little, you'll get some satisfaction out of like little bits here and there. But I really do love the universe that you're creating. I hope I will do anything that I can to support you so we can expand the stories and get some of those peripheral characters into some other novels and maybe get a couple more of these monsters on the page.
I really, I have plans. I just have to figure out the right way, and I really hope I get a chance to do them. So it's uh, they're a lot of fun. It's just fun playing with those things. Even when the novels are really dark. I mean, it's kind of a blast to work with these characters and write these characters.
Well, you kind of stole my next question because it's so much fun to read your work. I've got to ask, how much fun is it to write?
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, if you're a writer, I think most of us just are going to say kind of the same thing. You kind of get in that zone, and um, sometimes you'll have days where it's kind of hard to kind of jump in, but when you get going and you're really writing places and you find like the best little bit of dialogue, or oh gosh, I figure out what's happening with this character. It's so much fun, and you watch. Um, I'm not a writer who like sits down and will outline everything from start to finish, and I'm going to go from here to here to here, and ad nauseum. But I kind of just started, and I say, okay, I know a few of these characters. I know that such and such is probably going to happen. It may change along the way, but I just kind of dive in and start writing, and the characters kind of figure out who they are along the way. It sounds kind of crazy, but there are, just using Catherine, the protagonist of the new book, as an example. I was writing her, and as the story goes through, I'm trying to figure out why she's doing certain things and why is she behaving this way. And then I just start learning things about her, and I realize, oh, that's what's going on. And that's just your subconscious kind of building these people in your brain. But that's the fun part for me, just being able to have them surprise you, and you're trying to send them down this path, and they're like, no, 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 I need to go this way, and you just sort of have to jump in and grab hold and follow. Yeah.
Hysterical. I've been fortunate enough and honored to have authors like yourself sitting in front of me virtually, and every single one of them says the same thing, that the characters just they tell me what they want to
Yeah,
do.
it's really cool. It's so
Just-
cool, and it's
I'm so
weird.
jealous. I'm so jealous, and it just sounds fantastic. All right, Josh. This being Macabre Daily, and we love literature, and we support indie press and mainstream press, of course. But we do love movies. So
Absolutely.
while I've got you in front of me, I have to ask two questions. So, what did you cut your teeth on growing up as a kid, and then into your 20s? Like when you were younger, what did you gravitate towards? Is it the same now, or what do you appreciate more now?
Man, when I was so there's one throughput for sure, and that's like John Carpenter movies. Like, so I was a kid in the 80s, and my God, there's nothing better than like The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China and Escape from New York and on down the line. So
I knew
that's
I liked you for some reason.
yeah, I'm a complete nerd for that stuff, and so I have always loved it. I still do. I always will. I also being a kid in the 80s was way into slashers and whatever I could find on VHS, right? So it was always like, what am I going to rent this week, bring home? I love the Friday the 13th movies. Love obviously Carpenter's Halloween, but subsequent Halloweens, they got worse and worse and worse and worse, but that's okay because I didn't really care at that point. Um, and then I watched a lot of monster movies, and that type of thing was on kind of the UHF channels back in the day, where you would where I grew up, we would get, I think, Channel 11 out of Dallas, and they would show things on Saturday morning. So it might be stuff like Godzilla, it might be Jason and the Argonauts and all the Harryhausen type stuff. I mean, that's where I first saw basically all that type of thing.
Same.
And, eventually found the Universal monsters and all that other type of thing. Um, I just love horror movies in general. If I'm talking my absolute favorite, it's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, I was born like the year before that came out. And so I certainly wasn't old enough to see it then, but it's that movie that just lives in just in legend for kids my age, especially growing up in Texas. Like on the first grade playground, we would chase each other with air chainsaws. We had never seen that movie, but everybody had like older siblings or cousins or somebody who would tell them about it, and we just knew that it was scary as hell, and we knew that it took place in Texas. And so, as an adult, I know it's a complete work of fiction, but there's that little section at the beginning that says something to the effect of, this is based on fact. It happened on this date in 1973. And I absolutely grew up thinking, oh man, so that totally happened, but it was somewhere like out by Dallas, Fort Worth. And throughout my young life, anytime we would travel somewhere in Texas, I'd be like, man, is this where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre happened? Like, are we close to there? So I was at an embarrassingly old age before I let myself admit that it didn't really happen, that I was just kind of fooling myself. But I still go back to that movie and I love it. It's just an absolutely perfect, just grisly horror film.
If you're a certain type of person, you'll never hear a flash bulb go off with that sound and not think of the
Oh
Texas
God.
Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, it's just what's kind of cool is I live in Metro Austin now, and I moved down here in the 90s. And literally, as I'm driving into town, I'd read something about where they had filmed some of this stuff, and my brain went, "Oh, this is where it happened." And I'm talking at this point, I was in my 20s, and I had to go, "No, Josh, it didn't happen. This is where they filmed it." And so there are as I understand it, the original house was in Round Rock, Texas, and it's now like a Barnes and Noble and kind of a little area there. It's completely city at this point, right?
Okay.
But there were two houses that were like twins, I guess, that were built at the same time. And so the one from the actual movie has been moved to another town, and I think you can stay there as like a bed and breakfast. But the twin was moved to the suburb where I live in Austin, and it's like an optometrist office or something. And when I found out, I immediately drove past it and kind of had a freak out meltdown because it looks exactly like it. It's just painted and new now, but it's the same thing. So yeah, and then the actual gas station is down in Bastrop, which is probably like 40 minutes from where I live. So
Slow rolling past all these places.
Yeah, no, it's like you come here, you can see Texas Chainsaw Massacre sites, you can see Dazed and Confused sites. They're all there.
Love them both. Love them both. All right, as it's brace my heart. We are running out of time, but I do want to give you the chance to promote any events that you might have coming up. Where can we find you? Your socials, the links to purchase both The Legend of Charlie Fish and The Unkillable Frank Lightning will be right below us in the show notes. So rest assured that'll be there. But where can we find you?
Yeah, website is joshrountree.com. There's no D in Roundtree. It just sounds like Roundtree, but without a D. I'm on Blue Sky. That's a good social media site to find me. I'm on Instagram, so all under some kind of form of my name. I know we're going to do some book events when Frank Lightning comes out this summer, but I don't have details on that yet, but I'll let you know.
I'll be here to support you when you do.
Yeah, thanks so much. The Unkillable Frank Lightning comes out in July. I actually have right after that in August, I have another book coming out that's a novella from Psychopomp, and it's called Summer in the House of the Departed, and it's a West Texas ghost story.
Oh my goodness, Josh. All right. Well, okay. Guess who's coming back to talk?
I'll have a copy of that, and I'll send it to you soon.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Man, thank you.
Everything we talked about is going to be in the show notes. And again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I was really looking forward to this because you have shot to the top of my favorite authors, and I'm gonna voraciously read everything that you do going forward.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the chance to come on here and just talk and have fun.
Yeah, it's a good chin wag. We had a good hang.
Yeah. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did not really happen.
Well, I mean, we both say that, but in the back of our mind, you and I both can't fully convince ourselves it
Part
did.
of me still believes it. So,
All right, Josh, until we speak again, which honestly will be soon, take care of yourself and thanks again for all the great work.
man, thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. Take care, my friend. And that's it.
Cool. Is that all right?
It was fantastic. Josh, I'm so sorry. I got a minute and 48 left. That's one thing I hate about this Zoom is that you only have a certain amount of time, but that was fantastic. It was great.
Cool. Yeah, no, you make it really easy. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the chance, like I said. So
You got it. Hey, look, man, these are incredible. I can't wait to read more. Look, Macabre Daily, we're tiny, but at the moment we get 35,000 eyes on us per month, and it's only growing. The YouTube is shooting up by hundreds of viewers per month. So we're the little mouse that roars. Let me know how I can support you.
and I'll do my best to spread the word too. So whatever I can do to help you guys, I'm here.
Well, I was just going to say, there's no expectation. There's no quid pro quo. We're into supporting indie authors. We're into supporting dynamite authors. You're both. So it's just the least we can do. We really, it's what we love to do.
Well, same here. I love writing it and I love talking about it. So I would really love the chance anytime that you want. I'll hop on the show.
Got it. Give me a couple of weeks. I'm actually gonna, I'll reach back out to you and, I got a couple ideas. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I've got the next 3 articles for you mapped out, but yeah, let's just keep those dominoes falling until
And that other book, I'll have an arc here probably in the next few weeks. So I'll send one your way.
I really appreciate that.
No, thank you, man.
All right, my friend, have a great night.
Be safe.
Take care.